Hi, I'm joined here by Dolidze, one of the opposition leaders from Georgia. We're here in the House of Parliament in the Netherlands, and you're visiting the Netherlands this week. And maybe you can explain to our people what are you doing in the Netherlands?
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. It's a cradle of democracy, Dutch democracy, and thanks to FMS for facilitating this visit. My visit at this historic time for Georgian people has two objectives. One, I've met with the representatives of the International Criminal Court. Den Haag is the center of international justice, so I wanted to create an opportunity to raise awareness in the ICC about the human rights violations taking place in Georgia in relation to peaceful protesters. And then I had a series of meetings with members of parliament and think tanks here, also to get in touch and to advocate for better engagement from the European Union side and the Dutch side with the current event in Georgia. Although I have to say the level of interest and awareness is very high, so I'm happy to be here at this particular moment.
Yeah, and I think many people have seen images in the news or in the newspapers about what's going on in Georgia. You already mentioned the peaceful protests. You're one of the leaders of these protests, and maybe it's good to give us a sense of how big they are and the duration of these protests, which is quite long.
Yes, also I have to emphasize that there was a debate on Georgia question here in the Dutch Parliament this week, and the Parliament adopted a specific resolution, which I'm very grateful for on behalf of the Georgian people. Protests are indeed extraordinary, so never we have seen this amount of people turn out in the streets, except when Georgia became independent from the Soviet Union in the 90s. So the population is 3.5 million only, and hundreds of thousands of people are marching every day in the street.
Yeah, so that's an equivalent of like a few million people if it were in the Netherlands.
Absolutely.
And it's not just in Tbilisi, right? It's not just in the capital.
Yes, absolutely. If you could imagine if Den Haag, Utrecht, Eindhoven, Rotterdam,
all the big places,
all the big cities and relatively smaller towns would be protesting. Why? Because it's a crucial moment. Either Georgia retains its historic course of being pro-European, aspiring for European integration, implementing European reforms, or it gets hijacked by Russia and it becomes one of the countries dominated by the Russian influence, and so Georgian people do not want to allow that.
No, the Georgian people, like 80+% are pro-European. So what can you say about the demands that the protesters are making?
Yes, absolutely. Also, these protests are democratic protests specifically because continuously 80–85% of people support pro-European course. That's the choice of the democratic majority. In terms of the demands, first and foremost, release of political prisoners.
Right.
This is a very serious question. As we are speaking, up to 400 people have been arrested, fined, or sanctioned with criminal law, and 30 of them are facing very serious criminal sentences for no reason, just because they voiced their critical opinion. And second and most important demand, and something that is a way out of the crisis right now, is new elections with new election administration. This could diffuse the process and get us back on the democratic track.
Yeah, and you're here in the Netherlands. You're meeting lots of people who are engaged, maybe even at the EU level. What can we mean for the protesters and the opposition in Georgia?
Well, I have to say that people on the street, who are on the street protesting 24 hours a day, they value very much statements and actions voiced from EU countries. And we have to emphasize, we have a long-standing partnership with the Netherlands. So I, for example, I'm a recipient of a Dutch scholarship, which has been given every year to Georgian students to come and study in the Netherlands. And we have been the recipient of the largest amount of investment from the Netherlands among the EU countries. That was in the past, and this amount of investment is actually decreasing because of the events going on right now. So our partnership should continue. The statements, the resolutions adopted here are very important. We're also waiting and expecting sanctions, of course, if it's possible within the realm of politics, as well as funding and support for civil society, not for the state. These are probably the most important and urgent things.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here and advocating the cause, also of your party, for the people. We wish you all the best, and thanks again for being with us.
Thank you for the support. Thank you.